Here we go.
As we look forward into Nintendo's future, we cannot help but wonder about one specific game that was announced already, being Breath of the Wild 2. I mean, this game could be so much that just it blows our minds. And as we played the first one and as it became a world phenomenon type of game, I think we can expect something just as good, if not greater, from the second one. But what can we expect? What do they need to do to change this game up? How are they going to make it different from the first one? Well, let me tell you a little something here. I'm going to tell you guys today. I broke everything down into 6 different categories for me to discuss with you guys, and of course we're going to go in depth with each one. So without further ado, let's hop into the list. So of course we're going to start off with maps, because the original Breath of the Wild map was absolutely insane. It was one of the most expansive video game maps of all time, and I loved it. I absolutely adored searching all the areas, and I know lots of people said spots were barren, but I found them to be really cool locations to go visit and just sit and watch as the sun rose and set. Now, we already got a peek at the new map from the Breath of the Wild 2's trailer, where you can see pretty much the same overworld, just missing some of the shrines, and it just seems to be the same, just barren. And that's what kind of scares me, is will they completely change the map, or will they keep it the same? Here is my theory. Now, not too long ago, I actually had a theory about this, how I talked about the potential for a crazy map sequence of changes in Breath of the Wild. I said, what if the timelines intertwined and we got different locations throughout the Zelda franchise that spawned all over the island? Now, I know I don't talk about Fortnite that much, but I know you... Is he really comparing Zelda to Fortnite? No, rage! So just hear me out for a second. So right now it is Season 10 in Fortnite, and the main theme is bringing things back from the past and putting them into the present day Fortnite. So their idea was they created these things called Rift Zones, and it's like these giant bubble domes that create a different spawned area from the past. And they are pretty daggone unique. You got one place called Tilted Town, which turned Tilted Towers, a thriving city, into an old western town. And you also have Retail Row, now changed into a zombie-inhabited wasteland from the past. Now, what's very interesting is this same idea was actually implied in The Legend of Zelda Hyrule Warriors, and was the main storyline where the worlds collided from the different types of Zelda games throughout the time period. And it was really cool to see the different locations that you could visit. You could visit Death Mountain from Ocarina of Time. You could even go to the Water Temple. There was just all these amazing different locations with these different characters that all came together for an epic story, and I think they could do the same thing, but a more canon Zelda experience. So imagine just being in a desert and looking off in the distance, and then you see a zone that's all based on Arbiter's Ground from Twilight Princess. And maybe even Snow Peak Ruins by Hebra Peak. Or maybe the Goron City turns into a past Goron City, maybe from Ocarina of Time, or maybe even Death Mountain starts to form, and everything from the past from that Death Mountain comes into fruition. It could be crazy. So the map would look pretty cool with all these new locations highlighted in these bubble domes that will take you to a different point in time. I think that would be pretty sweet. I mean, you could even go back to visit Ugu and Zun. But we don't even have to go back in time that far. I just want to see what it looked like before Ganon came to Breath of the Wild. I want to see Castle Town, you know, Hyrule Castle, the guards. I want to see everybody out there living their lives rather than these small little hidden camps everywhere scattered around the world. I want to see the world the way it was originally. Now, as far as the story goes, I'm not going to go all in depth about this because people have made tons of videos online about where the story is going to go with Ganondorf and everything, so let's just say it's going to be about Ganondorf. Whatever it is, it needs to be more in depth than the first game because we just got pieces and bits of past things that happened to Link rather than stuff that was happening in the now. Like, I'm seriously sick of seeing Zelda talk to Link, "Oh, Link, thank you for killing all of the monsters. Kiss me." Now, that's not to say that all the cutscenes were necessarily bad. I mean, some of the DLC ones were really good. They showed the champions in, like, mid-battle, and they showed how strong they were and how brave. I mean, the ending with all the champions coming together to give Link the support he needs at the time of the hour is just absolutely amazing, but I wanted more of that. Let's take Skyward Sword, for example. It is a story-driven game at its core, and it does so in such a wonderful way. The story is so dynamic from start to end. You constantly want to see what's happening next and what's going on. Now, okay, I love the Divine Beast as much as the next guy. Well, I don't even know if there's a next guy on this one, but I love the Divine Beast. I thought they were pretty cool that there was these giant walking monsters pretty much, and you can go inside of them to complete dungeons and mysteries and puzzles, and then get to the very top in order to battle a boss. That was really awesome. But I think it's time to go back to traditional dungeons. Back with the timeline theory, I think you could have different dungeons from different games and maybe just remix it a little bit. Maybe you combine different dungeons from the past, or just simply have dungeons. They could be underground somewhere, layered for years, or they could all rise from the ground just like, the shrines did, but it needs to be a little bit different. Similar to the Divine Beast, the shrines all had this one consistent look, which was this retro-fitted, blue neon lighted rooms, and they never strayed away from that same exact function. One of the long-running themes for Breath of the Wild was breaking the confinement of Zelda as we know it, and one big way they could do this is not letting Link be the only playable character in the game. How about you expand it to Zelda now, as you can see here in Breath of the Wild 2's trailer alongside Link? Let Link and Zelda work together in cool co-op or single-based combat where you can switch between the two, where maybe Link is doing one task while Zelda's doing another. And maybe they could even find a way to get the champions back in this and let you play as them, or maybe the champions' descendants. One of them would be really cool, but how cool would it be to run around as Daruk smashing everybody, Rivali flying through the air, Mipha swimming through the water, or just Urbosa tearing people up? It would be so amazing to play as all these different characters, and maybe even be able to switch off and on, depending on where you are on the map. This would make traversing the map super easy and super quick as well. Or maybe we can even play as little Korok, like Makar from Wind Waker. Now, there's one thing with Zelda combat that just keeps on bothering me from game to game, from series to series. It continues to stay the same, and it's how Link swings his sword. All you have to do is tap the same button 3 times in order to do the basic combo. And I'm like, well, you can swing the Wiimote for Skyward Sword, but that's besides the fact. I want to see more unique combat options from Link. I want to see him do some cool combos with the sword and just do some cool flips or some type of technique that we haven't seen before. Now, I know there's like slowdown time to do the Fury mode where you can swing really fast, but it's not realistic. Come on, how is Link slowing down time for him and him only? So I looked to another series for some information, and I came upon Metroid, and Metroid Other M to be specific. Oh, here we go again, rage. But all the negatives pushed aside for that game for just a moment, let's look at the combat because it's actually really fluid and smooth. Everything that Samus does is on a smooth pattern where she can flip and dodge, and is almost timed sequences when she's battling things. On some of the enemies and bosses that she fights, she can trigger short little cutscene animations in the middle of the fight, which you can just trigger by shooting when it's time for you to shoot, which is super cool. This is also a mechanic in Samus Returns where she can actually do flips and tricks all over the enemies and these little cutscenes after triggering the parry attack. And Breath of the Wild just comes off kind of bland compared to those games to me. You got all these different weapon categories, about 3 really. You have your regular sword, your giant swords, and your spears, which are not that different because they all swing relatively the same. You can hold down the swing button in order to swing it around you, or you can jump into mid-air and slash downward. And I know you have your arrows, which is pretty cool to slow down time in mid-air to get your shot lined up and stuff, and you can come up with creative ways to defeat enemies, but the basic sword combat is just what it is, basic. Alright, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. What the heck is a Blight Ganon? What the heck were they even doing? Why is that an enemy? I mean, these bosses were absolutely terrible. They were just different variations of each other with like 3 separate attacks, and they were pretty daggone easy to beat. I don't know if it's just me, but I could beat them literally with probably like 4 or 5 hearts to my name. So I could really only think back to 2 bosses that were original, and one of those was Master Koga, which was a fun, quirky little boss battle to have fun with, but the other one was a DLC boss, which came as Maz Koshia, one of the monks, and let me tell you, that boss was freaking hard, and it was epic. Too bad it was only DLC. But even the final boss with Ganon just sitting in the field waiting for you to attack him was so just not the hype that I was expecting. I mean, seriously, if the game lets you, you could probably go run all the way to Hebra Peak, go make you a nice little dish, come back, sit down, eat it in front of Ganon, offer him some of your dish, and still get ready to fight while he just, let me scoot around, let me turn around and try to hit you with this slow laser.
What is that? Who you fight?
It really makes you miss some of the classic temple bosses from the older games like Twilight Princess's Style Lord, when you literally had to fly into him on a dreidel, or The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword's Galactos. And for the last category, I want to talk about map traversal, because the first game did it really well. There was multiple ways to get around this giant map. You could teleport to any of the shrines, you could use your paraglider, ride a horse, or even ride the Master Cycle Zero, which came in the DLC pack. But I would love to see even more modes of transportation, like maybe in the air. Like when you was on top of Von Meadow, that felt really cool to be up there, but I wish I could fly around and see everything from the eye view rather than just paragliding down. And also, why not some type of watermobile, maybe a submarine or some type of ability to let you swim like the Zora really quick through the water? That would be really dope. Why not use ideas from past games, or maybe even use that timeline theory I had and bring some of the things like the boat from Wind Waker or the train from Spirit Tracks? Imagine multiple trains that stretch all the way around the giant vast land of Hyrule, and you can get on them to get from place to place whenever you wanted to. That would be amazing. Well, actually, I guess the more I think about it, there is one special way to get around Hyrule. Just whatever you're doing, make sure you're storm ready. But whatever it is that Breath of the Wild 2 comes out to be at the end, I cannot wait. I think it's going to be good regardless because, man, look at the first game. I'm sure they're just going to double down on the second one. And I cannot wait for our first reveal gameplay trailer. It's going to be like Breath of the Wild all over again. But thank you guys for tuning in today. If you liked the video, please like it. It helps the channel grow so much and it helps the video to grow. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all things Nintendo all the time. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.